I'm Paul from West Country Wanderings. Today we're going to have a look at the abandoned line between Plymouth and Yealmpton. We're going to start in the South Hams village of Yealmpton and have a look and see what remains there are of this fascinating branch line railway. The line was originally promoted by the LSWR using the old Plymouth and Dartmouth Railway Acts, but the possibility of the LSWR extending towards Torbay alarmed the GWR. The branch to Yealmpton was transferred to the Great Western Railway, who opened the branch in 1898. In the first few years there were rumblings of other lines in the area, the first being the idea of completing the original Plymouth and Dartmoor plan to reach Modbury via Yealmpton. Another proposal was for a light railway to be constructed from the line a mile or so short of Yealmpton, which would then follow the eastern edge of the River Yealm to reach Newton Ferrers. In fact, Yealmpton station, as we'll see, was actually built in Tor on the wrong side of the River Yealm for the real Yealmpton village, and the only road bridge over the river soon proved too narrow and was then rebuilt. Traffic grew steadily with surprising varied selection of goods traffic, including milk, rabbits, animal feeds, oysters and bricks from the South Hams works near Steer Point, which we'll look at in more detail towards the end. There was so much milk traffic that it was common for the luggage compartments to be full of it, and churns were even lined up in the centre aisles of the passenger carriages. Sadly, as early as the 1920s, the motor car began to take over, and passenger traffic on the line decreased rapidly, to such an extent that in 1928 the GWR considered closure. With no improvement in usage, passenger traffic ceased in 1930. However, good services continued, but the stations and signalling were all stripped to the bare minimum. In 1941, with the Second World War underway, petrol had become very scarce, and cars disappeared from the streets. Even the buses were hit. The GWR decided to reinstate passenger services, and they hastily reconstructed the ticket offices and toilets at Yealmpton. Much traffic was generated by the demand to move people out of Plymouth during the heavy nighttime bombing. Like many frontline towns, people in Plymouth who had relations or friends who could take them in at night left by train each evening for the safer outdoor suburbs or nearby villages. The pre-1930 trains ran to and from the GWR Mill Bay station in Plymouth, but in 1941 until services ended in 1947, the services used the Southern Railway's Friary station, albeit continuing to use the Great Western Railway's engines and coaches. There was also a GWR service from Plymstock through to Saltash using rail motors. The line was always purely rural, with all stations having just one platform and a minimum of facilities. Hello, I'm Paul from West Country Wanderings, and today we're looking at the former railway line between Yealmpton and Plymouth. Behind me is the site of the former Yealmpton railway station. It's now a housing estate, but you'll probably notice a low wall which denoted the boundary of the station entrance, and there's a little plaque there to denote that. We're just going to have an explore further on in Yealmpton to see what other remains there are in this area before going on to Alberton, Brixton and Billingham. This is the River Yealm, or Yam, and it flows well down from Dartmoor through this eastern section of the South Hams, and it joins the sea, going through the pretty villages of Nosmayo and Newton Ferrers just beyond Wembury Point. Just up from the river we see more remains of the railway here, the first substantial bits we've seen so far, and we have a former bridge across the entrance to an area of Yealmpton known as Waltaker, and in front of that there is evidence of railway fencing. This is a beautiful location here on the River Yealm. Notice the large boulder in the middle of the river there. But I think what's behind me at the moment is perhaps more interesting. Now you're probably thinking, oh, West Country Wanderings is showing us another lime kiln. You'd be correct. Except for the fact that's not just a lime kiln, it was the entrance to the former Kittley Caves. It was a show cave along the lines of Cheddar, obviously not quite so big, but lots of important remains were found there, things like hyenas, lots of bones and fragments which are now in, I think they're at the Box Museum in Plymouth. I believe it closed towards the end of the last century, towards the end of the 20th century. It was around about the same time the Shire Horse Centre, some of you may remember that here at Yealmpton, also closed around the same time, citing low visitor numbers, which is a shame because it was a fantastic cave and I never got a chance to go underground here. I hope you can hear me above the river babbling its way down amongst the rocks there. And the reason I've shown you this is the large abutment wall on the other side of the river, which is where the railway from Yealmpton heading towards Plymouth, we're about 1.5 miles outside the village of Yealmpton now. This is where it crossed the River Yealm. Probably one of the most impressive pieces of engineering, apart from another bridge we'll look at later on. But yeah, this is still in fantastic condition, the brickwork there. It's completely intact, the mortar looks good, there's no broken bricks, no cracks. We're now standing on the alignment of the original route of the railway line, and we're on the same side as the river where it crossed over here with the bridge, and you can see the end of the bridge abutments there. There's also evidence of ballast here on the former track bed, and here is where the bridge went across the river. Very substantial structure it would have been. If I can find a Creative Commons photo of what the bridge originally looked like, I'll drop that in here. If not, we will continue. Now if you're watching this one after the Brixham vlog, I did the iron mine over at Sharkham Point. Yes, we've got more mining here. This time's actually not iron, not tin, not silver, but marble. Yes, you heard that right, marble. The only location in the West Country I'm aware where marble was mined. It was some of the pillars in St Paul's Cathedral are used from Yealmpton green marble. Had a very, very vivid colour. And I can see a strike point there on the cliff just opposite me. Just focus on that so you can see it's a strong, sharp diagonal line that's clearly been made from where they've been breaking the marble away from the limestone cliff face. Now back on the track bed of the Plymouth to Yealmpton railway, that's looking in the direction of Plymouth. And this way it goes through a very, very deep cutting. I'll zoom the camera up so you can see how deep it is in a minute. And he went through here, just beyond that tree and the fence there, and you can see just how high this cutting was. All the way up to there. Very, very deep cutting. So though we got a couple of bridges, well, quite a few bridges on this line, and crossing rivers, etc. And there's also a bit of heavy engineering as well. So this would not have been a cheap line to have been constructed. Now I'm thinking some of the quarrying here was to do with the aforementioned marble. Maybe they worked in conjunction with the people doing the quarrying to get the mine to have built this cutting. Certainly possible. I just noticed that there's another sharp angular piece over there where the marble has been quarried at this point. That's the original railings, denoting that must have been the pedestrian entrance to the station. And the other side there we have the wall of the station yard, and it would have crossed the road here and gone through where that house is currently, which is built on the former track. And the old railings outside the railway station here at Yealmpton in Plymouth. And unsurprisingly, this road is actually called Station Road. That's why it was so easy to find. So we're about 3 miles from the city centre on a beautiful evening. Now, just moved further on to part of Plymouth called Billicum. We're actually at Moorcroft Quarry, so I can't continue any further over in that direction because that's the entrance to this enormous limestone quarry which provides aggregate building materials. But this is the route of where our branch line went. There is a retaining wall there, and I think the track must have gone where I'm actually standing at the moment. You can actually just see the outline of the quarry. Part of it is infilled with there's a large lake, so obviously they won't allow visitors in beyond that point, but some of the track actually went through part of where the quarry is at the moment. Just behind me is the main road heading towards the South Hams from the Plymouth city centre out towards Kingsbridge and Dartmouth. I'm currently outside a well-known Plymouth supermarket, Morrison's, here at Billicum, and it seems to me like the whole of Billicum has been built on the edge of a limestone quarry. You can see the car park here at Billicum has got reinforced quarrying behind the car park. But the reason I've stopped here, just parked up, is the other side of the main road going into the South Hams, which is over here. And it's this restored bridge, which was the line which went to Yealmpton. We're going to have a look at that. Yeah, so here is our bridge that would have taken our line from Yealmpton to Plymouth, central Plymouth. Over here. And what they've done, they've now restored the former track into a cycle and pedestrian walkway. So you've got level access from here, from Billicum, which takes us all the way across also the recently restored Laira Bridge, which takes the railway across the River Plym, which we'll go and have a look at next. Sorry if it's very noisy in the background. There's actually a fun fair to my left. Obviously that's not why we're here, it's just over there. I've never seen a fun fair there before, I must admit. It's interesting. Okay. It's the first day of what people are allowed out today. I noticed a couple of pubs had lots of people in their beer gardens as I was driving here to Plymouth. Surprised to see that after a shock, really. So this is the River Plym. Here in Plymouth, it's clearly high tide. Over in the distance there, you can make out glorious Dartmoor. And just around the corner there is out towards Marsh Mills and the A38. Now over on this side is the trees there denotes the Saltram Estate, which is a National Trust property. It's got a huge park, beautiful place. Now from this angle you can make out where we've walked across, so you can see the original Railway bridge pillars. The road bridge, which is a newer road bridge, it's not the original Laira Bridge, it runs parallel to it. On the right hand side you can just see the Royal Mail van there waiting at the traffic lights, junction to the right. This was derelict for many years. It actually had the railway line, the actual track and sleepers and ballast still on it. I remember driving over the Laira Bridge thinking would they ever reopen the line again, but it's good to see it's been repurposed as a walkway towards Plymstock, Yealmpton and Billicum, where we've come from. More railway interest at this point. Quayside Railways, a horse-drawn tramway, once ran here below the road to Laira Wharf. I did not know that. It was built in 1825 to carry granite from Dartmoor and later used for transporting china clay from Lee Moor. The railway to Capdown Wharves opened in 1879-1880 and still is used. So yes, the railways you can see there. There it is. Goes down to Capdown Wharves. Although it says it's in use, it has actually been a mothballed track. I'm not aware that it's actually been used for some considerable time. They have run excursions on the line, and it does go down to Capdown Wharves. Actually goes under a bridge here, which takes it under the main A379 road towards South Hams, towards Kingsbridge and Dartmouth. Another view of this fantastic railway bridge in all its glory. It's wonderful to see it restored. It was looking very red rusty colour for many years and derelict. Bits missing, and magnificent effort to see it reopened. I think it opened about 5 or 6 years ago. I think it was 2015, 2016, that time. It is also lit up at night, and it changes colour. Looks a bit like a mini disco. Just noticed this blocked off entrance which goes underneath the main Laira Bridge road. I have no idea what that's for. Anybody know? Please drop a line in the comments. I've driven past this bridge since it's been restored many times, so it's an absolute delight to be able to walk across it today on a beautiful evening here. Absolutely fabulous, and it's good to see that it's been well used by walkers, cyclists and joggers. It's taken advantage of the wonderful evening's light. Really great, and it's wonderful to see it being used, and a fantastic project it is to reduce the car usage from the city centre to the eastern part of Plymouth. Just towards the Alberton end of the rail bridge is the original abutments of the first Laira road bridge. So there's our railway bridge next to the older Laira road bridge, but they've actually built a new section, because originally the track would have just gone on, presumably on an embankment, which would have been demolished when they built the road here at the Ride, which runs parallel to the River Plym. There's an industrial estate down there and also stagecoach bus depot. So there's no embankment there, so they had to build a new embankment to reopen the cycle path. This lovely path here and cycle route takes you right into the Saltram National Trust Park. And the road on the other side is the main road in and out of Plymouth city centre. It's called Embankment Road. And there is a depot over there, which is the main railway depot. It's a GWR depot, and it's called Laira Depot, where they maintain the new Hitachi high-speed trains between Penzance and London Paddington. I also think that they do some of the cross-country HST sets there as well. So why I'm in Brixton? Brixton actually had two railway stations on the line between Yealmpton and Plymouth. It had one called Brixton Road, which, as the name implies in the old GWR style, means it's a long way from the village. So it's on the Plymouth side of Brixton village. You can hear the lambs in the background of the field behind me. And it had another railway station at quite a remote location called Steer Point. And there was also a bridge over a creek from the River Yealm, which we saw earlier. With the River Yealm we saw earlier, but there is abutments of the bridge still in existence. So we're going to go down and have a look at that. Now this isn't what you think it is. It's not a railway bridge. It's actually a carriage drive from the Kitley estate, from Kitley House, down towards the Western Lodge. The carriage drive above the road here. I'm actually at Winston in Brixton. Sorry, I'm actually in Winston in Brixton, making my way down to Steer Point. Yeah, very low bridge this one. It's actually just 6 foot, or £1.8. The railway ran right into the heart of Yealmpton, just below the main A379 Kingsbridge Dartmouth Road. But in Brixton, it did something rather odd. It does a huge loop. It runs much further south than the heart of the village, so it tracked closest to Brixton at Brixton Road, which is more closer to Elberton, the station we saw earlier. It wasn't actually far from Elberton station. It was the next station along, and it's on the edge of the village, on the western edge, and it had this southerly loop at Steer Point. So why did it make its way down to Steer Point? Well, at Steer Point was the South Hams brickworks, and the people building the railway decided to do the loop to make sure that they captured the freight traffic from the former brickworks to make it viable in terms of revenue. So we're now at a creek just off the River Yealm. We're going to head on the path. It's, as you can see, it's high tide. Across here. We're now on the former railway track at Steer Point. This is the bit where it does the Brixton wide curve, heading in the direction of the Kitley estate. It used to be a hotel. It's closed fairly recently, and I think it's going to be redeveloped into apartments. Beautiful light here on the creek here on the River Yealm. There's the former pillars of the bridge over the creek here on the edge of the River Yealm. The embankment is actually eroded away now. It comes to a very, very thin point, and some of the trees have collapsed each side of where the embankment used to run here. There it is. I'm sorry it's in a bit of shadow. I'm come to the edge of the day's light, but this is it. This is the end of the line, and so our line headed across the creek here on the banks of the River Yealm, on the edge of the Kitley estate, and heading back towards the village of Yealmpton where we started our journey. Former bridge here at Steer Point. Well, I hope you enjoyed our disused railway explore today, exploring the former branch line between Yealmpton and Plymouth. I hope to drop some old photographs and some more facts and figures in a map to show you exactly where the railway once run in the glorious countryside here in the western part of the South Hams here in Devon in England. Until next time, hope you can join me again. If you like the video, please consider a like, perhaps a subscribe, a share or a comment below, particularly if you've got any memories of this former railway lane here in South Devon. All the best, look after yourselves, take care and see you all soon. Cheers now.